Do you think young people today, they believe that American dream is dead?
In America? The young Americans?
Yeah.
I think they believe less in the American dream. Look, there are still an awful lot of young people that are starting companies in America, small companies, but it is harder. It is harder. And I do think that a larger number of Americans think that the country today has inextricably become a two-tier system where there's one set of rules for powerful rich people and there's another set of rules for other people. And I think there are far more people like that today. And I worry about that. I worry that it is harder to network today. It's harder to build yourself up from the bootstraps. And I think there are two different groups of people that are angry. I think you've got a lot of men that don't have college degrees. They are working or middle class. Some of them have good money. They feel like no one has paid attention to them while a lot of immigrants came in. They feel like free trade, a lot of jobs went to India, a lot of jobs went to China. Robotics, the work floor doesn't need them the way they used to. And then they see that they're the one group of people that you can discriminate against and no one's going to get mad at you. You say these guys, as Obama said, clinging to their guns and their religion. I mean, if you had said that about women, if you had said that about gay people, you said that about black people, you'd be canceled. But you say that about rednecks who, these sort of white trash, right? And they're angry. They've got grievances and they are like, no one cares about us. And by the way, and women are doing well and they're getting more educated and they're getting more rights. And we can't even have relationships with women anymore. Scott Galloway, my good friend, talks about this a lot, right? I think this is a real thing. I think it's a big part of why Trump won. And that is a big group of men that are angry in this country. I think that there's also an increasingly large group of college-educated, white-collar, professional women, urban and suburban. And they have watched as there's this backlash against them. They've seen Roe versus Wade get taken down by the Supreme Court after 50 years, right? They see that AI is coming and it's taking jobs away from the professional class. They see the corruption. They see Epstein. They see a small number of men and tech bros and bankers and all enriching themselves. And meanwhile, they don't think their children are going to have opportunities graduating from college. And they're really angry. And they are not gettable by Trump. That is the progressives on the left. But the reason I say this to you is because both of these groups of people, and there's a lot of them, would say that the American dream doesn't exist anymore. Look, I believe in the American dream. I am the American dream. I mean, my family looks at what I did and they go like, this guy is like, we gave him opportunities with education and look at what he was able to build. They don't even know they don't really understand exactly what I do, but they know it's really cool, right? Whatever. That's awesome. And I truly think that could not have happened. I could not have happened in any other country. There's no other country that I could have built what I built at that time and made it into this today. Not possible. But I think that we're not just talking about, a few deplorables in America that hate everybody and want to bring the system down. There are a lot of people in the US that are falling into those two categories. And the longer we have governments and leaders that we don't trust, that aren't really leading, the more of those people they're going to be. The more of those people are going to be.
So don't you think then this starts decline much faster than the external trust which America is losing?
Yes.
Right? Because
of course,
if the external world doesn't trust you, but they're dependent, but forget external world, internal world, people inside, they don't trust in you anymore. I was reading a report that in 50s, more than 75% people had trust in the government and the institutions in America. Now less than 20% people have trust. So it's like significantly declining.
Couldn't agree more.
So now that people don't trust anymore, then isn't it like a bigger problem? And
It
that's
is.
how other countries get opportunity to win.
Well, but I think, again, I'm going to go back to, I'm not sure that countries are going to be the principal object of analysis for winning and losing in 10 and 20 years.
Got it.
And the things you're talking to me about are not happening in 1 year. It happens over time.
Yeah.
Also, these people in the United States, they are angry. Trump channeled that anger, and he was a disruptive force, but for himself. The biggest problem, and the biggest reason I don't like Trump personally, is because so many of the things that motivate him are when he promotes himself above the country. And you see this with the money he's making personally and the enrichment of himself and his family and his friends over the interests of the country, driving individual policies, whether it's I want to make sure that I control TikTok with my friends so I have more influence and more important than other China stuff, or crypto with Pakistani investors, all of that nonsense, right? But the fact that America picked a bad guy to drive a political revolution does not mean the political revolution is a bad thing. We've had this before. During the Gilded Age, which is the last time that the United States had this level of inequality and this many people that were really mistrusting the system, you elected FDR. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in and he engineered a political revolution. Now, some of what he did failed. He tried to pack the Supreme Court with 15 people. Failed, couldn't do it. He tried to purge his own Democratic Party of people that weren't loyal. Failed. But he created an administrative state that was professional and independent from the president, that allowed for the construction of a government that would build infrastructure that would create and support a working and middle class for generations. And that was a great thing. So we're going to need someone like that. You don't get someone like that unless you have a whole bunch of young people that are dissatisfied with the existing system. So you are correct that there is a big threat that so many Americans feel like the American dream does not work for them. Thank God, because it doesn't. If the American dream didn't work, but they didn't feel that way, I'm much more worried about Chinese young people. Chinese young people are saying, we don't think the Chinese system works for us. What are we going to do? Lie flat. We're just not going to try. These young Americans aren't saying we're going to lie flat. They say we're going to vote for Mamdani. We're going to vote for AOC. Okay, now I'm not saying that those are the answers, but the point is they have agency. They have voice. They will not be quiet. They won't just sit down and take it. And some of them will probably be violent. And I hope that that number will be very small. They'll be found. They'll be contained. But there's going to be disruption. And we need disruption. When the political system doesn't work in a country or globally, you need disruption. So just like you're going to need a ministry of the future for AI, you're going to need a political revolution in the United States. We shouldn't be scared of that. We should welcome that. That's the opportunity we need. We can't continue to have 80-year-old white dudes running the country. I mean, Biden was not capable of running the country for at least the last year. And we didn't even know. No one was even saying anything about it. That's a huge scandal. Right? And the only reason we don't talk about it more now is because he's been replaced by someone that's doing even worse. Right? And so, of course we need something else. So but you come to America and you're going to interview a whole bunch of people to talk about the country. You got to, one of the things that makes this country so tremendous is the fact that we will tell you what we really think.
Yeah.
If you try to do that in China, good luck with that. They'll tell you how much they hate America or the problems of America. They'll say things they like about America too. They'll be honest about America. A lot of the Chinese. I have great conversations with the Chinese about what they think about America. As soon as you ask them what they think about China, the conversation becomes much more narrow, right? That's a problem. That's a limitation. You can't limit creativity like that and expect the country to flourish.
I have two questions on this, what you just said. What happens when the young people of a country stop believing in the system? They start getting more scared. What happens to a country then?
If we're talking about the United States specifically,
now that it's happening, okay, so what do you see? What will happen now? What's going to happen next?
Well, you're already seeing a bigger divide between red and blue, right? You're seeing that in certain parts of the country, there is a greater sense of support for a certain style of policies and politics. And in another part of the country, it's opposite. And there's less tolerance. And that's being made worse by the algorithms that is sorting the country into two groups of people that don't talk to each other, two different political nations or tribes, if you will. And that's a dangerous thing. I also should say that one of the great resiliences of the US system is that the federal government doesn't control everything. So the fact is, you were just in California, you were down in LA. California makes a lot of decisions about California. If you go to Austin, go to Texas, you're going to see that Texas makes a lot of decisions for Texas. Florida makes decisions for Florida. New York makes decisions for New York. And that's a useful thing because it means that even though you have very different ways to experiment with policy, they don't have to all follow one or the other. I mean, California and Texas right now are leading the country and leading much of the world in the creation of green energy. California is doing it from state-directed subsidies and regulation. Texas is doing it with almost no regulation, entrepreneurship, and business. I don't know which one will be more successful, but I'm glad we're doing both because that gives you an opportunity to make these things work. So I don't think the fact that the country is becoming more divided, given how decentralized the system is less dangerous than it would be if everything was determined by Washington.
True.